Welcome to the Ugly Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Alexander, she, they, and this is the place where creatives are encouraged to make messy, ugly art and let go of perfectionism. I started this podcast with my creative partner, Emerson, and we've since grown into our businesses, and this podcast is now evolving into a space where I interview other creatives to discuss our creative processes and how we navigate the mental minefield of creativity. This podcast serves as a reminder that you and your art get to be whatever the hell you want to be, ugly and all. Okay, welcome back to the Ugly Podcast. I'm really excited about this episode today. This person I'm about to introduce to you is the person that I wanted to bring onto the Ugly Podcast as soon as I started interviewing people. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. She is an artist, writer, and accidental astrologer from Calgary, where she lives with her husband and cat and has been making art for nearly a decade. And a few years ago, she stopped making realistic portraits and started letting her personality come through her work, which is why she's just so perfect for the Ugly Podcast and to come here. So welcome. Can you please just introduce yourself with your name and your pronouns, please?
Hello, hi. I'm Heather Buchanan, she, her. Thank you so much for having me, Lauren. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. This is just so good. Like your art, it touches a place in me that like brings me back to doing Mad Libs with my best friend at her lake cabin. Just like trying to pull out the most random, silly things we can possibly muster and just making ourselves crack up forever and always. And that is what your art does for
Yeah.
me. And I just love it so much. I told
Yeah.
you I wouldn't gush too much, but that's the extent of it. I'll stop.
Oh man. No, that is. Oh man, I haven't thought about Mad Libs in a really long time, but that is totally the vibe. Like just trying to make it weird, trying to like, yeah, let the oddity flow and trying to come up
Yes.
with some strangeness. Yes. Do they still make Mad Libs?
I hope so. I want to do them now.
Right? Yeah, they were really fun. I wanna find some and then go on a really long drive and just like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so good. um, so I want to kind of over the course of our conversation, I'd love to talk about like how your art has evolved and I don't know, just like how your process has been with that. Because I think like at least for me, the realization that my art can be whatever I want it to be and that I can lean into my own personality was like the biggest realization and made me realize like, oh, I actually have some creativity in me. Like I didn't think of myself as a creative person before that. So I'm really curious, like, what was your relationship to art before that shift when you were in your early days of art? Like, how did you start getting into making portraits? What was that like?
Yeah, so I think my relationship to art was very much, having it be a career and having it sort of be, something that I needed to make a living with. I really didn't want to be stuck in an office. I had a lot of anxiety and had battled depression so much as like a teenager, and a lot of it had to do with being at school and when I tried to hold down jobs and whatnot, I was so miserable. And the one thing I could always do was to make art. And so I really, really relied on art as a career because I could do that and I could not, I could want I could I could do that, and I'm trying not to get too bleak here.
Hey,
I could
sometimes
do that
life is bleak.
I could do that and be okay. So,
Mhm, mhm.
so yeah, so basically, making art was something I really needed to rely on for an income. And so, I did sort of, suppress my own personality in it a lot. Not completely, like, there was always a sense of humor in it and always, uh a bit of me in everything I made. I always came back to a part of myself, or it always sprung from something in me, but it was, there's just the volume was turned way, way, way down. And sort of, the question of would it sell was always, way, way at the front. And it was always, I made a lot of sort of pop culture related work, and a lot of, funny sort of puns and greeting cards and things that, just were like really, really commercial. And,
Mm.
so my relationship was very much, um, just sort of like leaning into what would sell from a purely survival standpoint.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, especially, I think it served me really well because it allowed me to sort of build up an audience for the first several years of my career and allowed me to sort of make a name for myself. And even though that sort of, then makes it harder to pivot because you
Mhm.
sort of get known for doing certain things, and it sort of makes it, sort of harder to ever shake that reputation as the person that does blank,
Right.
it also, there are benefits to it because I did spend a lot of years really honing my technical skills as,
Mhm.
if you want to like paint portraits of celebrities, you better, actually get some chops painting portraits, because it actually has to look like them if anyone's going to buy
Right.
them. But so there are all these like wonderful advantages, and you also get to make, work of the movies, the pop culture people that that I'm into and that I think are funny or interesting in some way, which is really fun. And then you get to interact with people who are also fans of the same thing, so it creates all these sorts of wonderful connections in those ways, which is
Yeah.
wonderful. But yeah, there was definitely always sort of a bit of an emptiness and a bit of like sort of a nagging feeling of it not
Mm.
quite, not being enough. Yeah, there was just something missing always.
Yeah. Yeah, that element of just, like, it's always in the back of your mind of, "This has to make me money," and so there's a certain pressure on your art at all times.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's a lot of weight to put on art and on creating, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, when did you start to develop your own style with the noseless faces and then, eventually horror scoops? How did
Yeah.
that come to be?
Yeah, so, it was, I guess, about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now,
Mhm.
the noseless faces, yeah, so I knew I wanted to sort of, yeah, so there was that, like, nagging feeling of having more to say and
Mhm.
knowing that I just really needed to start making work that was more myself. And I know people who, make pop culture work and who don't have that, who are, like, fully satisfied by doing that. So,
Mhm.
it's definitely not something everyone feels, but I felt it. I absolutely felt nagged to, like, get messy and get weird and
Mhm.
fully express all the nonsense going on in my brains. And yeah, so I really started just, like, drawing, like, 2 hours a day of just drawing, like, face after face after face, um, trying to figure out, like, what it was gonna be, what was gonna be different in my own style. And
Mm.
I also had this, like, maybe, like, 2-week period where I took, like, all these, like, like, canvas boards, like, just the kinda cheap canvas panels,
Yeah.
and I painted, like, the same character, like, this she had the same expression and hair color and sort of type of features, but I gave her sort of different, she was just, like, in a different style in about, like,
Mhm.
30 different paintings. It was absolutely
Wow.
insane. I, like, laid them all out, and I was just trying to figure out, like, in each one, what was interesting and what wasn't, and what sort of seemed derivative of a different style. And,
Mhm.
I was just, like, painting over and over and over and trying to just, like, figure out all this work that like no one will ever see, and
Mhm.
was just like really trying to develop a style that felt like me and felt
Mm.
unique and felt original. And I was trying to not look at a lot of other people's art at that time, and trying to not absorb too much of other people, because I like we are sponges, we are
Right,
you
yeah.
know human tofu, we take on the flavors of everything around us. um it's a weird way of putting it, but
Human tofu, I love
human
it.
tofu, yes, we are. Something like that. But so I was just trying to like come up with all these different things, and yeah, I think a lot of people who have gone through this, or like some people have just like always had a style since
Mhm.
they were young, but yeah, I definitely like, I don't know about you, but like I don't know. I didn't. I like squashed a lot of my own originality in myself at a young age.
Yeah.
Like I like killed that in myself to try to
Mhm.
fit in. So, I had to like recover it at an older age, So yeah, so it was a long process and a lot of trial and error and a lot of experimenting until I found things that felt right. And there was a period of it feeling like nothing was ever gonna feel like me. And it was like
Mhm.
the hopeless feeling of like, I'm just gonna like be painting faces forever and nothing's gonna feel right. Until
Yeah.
finally there were some like breakthrough moments of like, oh, this feels weird. This is interesting. Ooh, this is exciting. Oh my. And yeah, so it actually happened, which was exciting because there were weeks where it was like, oh, this is never gonna happen, and I'm never gonna have
Mhm.
a style, and hopeless, hopeless, hopeless. But no, it worked.
That's very encouraging. I'm still, like, discovering my style just because like, my
Right.
creative journey has been so new. I mean, I only realized I was a creative person, like, 2 years ago,
Yeah, yeah.
and so, like, I love hearing you say this, it makes me
Mm.
feel so hopeful.
Yes.
Like there is, like I can continue exploring this, and I will, like,
Yeah,
find something that speaks to me. It's just,
yeah.
like that's just part of the process, and it's so
Mhm.
funny that we're just like, "No, this is how it's gonna be forever. This is my
Right.
life." We never leave room for that expansion and that change because we're always just like, "No, this is just how it's gonna be." We're
Right. Or
we get
like
so
you just
resigned.
yeah, or there's that like mythology, like you just have a style, like it's just there and you
Right.
and it's like ingrained in you. Like, no, you've gotta like keep exploring, keep
You gotta find
finding.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, get curious, dig around, root around in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I love that. Um, yes, that brings me so much hope.
Yeah, I'm glad because like yeah, there were definitely some like dark moments of it feeling like it wasn't
Mhm,
gonna ever sort of congeal into anything. And what's really interesting, I think, is the things that aesthetically felt right, like the noselessness.
mhm,
That just like something felt really good about that, and I didn't know why. And then as I like worked with that, I realized that like the faces without noses looked like they were having like a panic attack, like they were having trouble breathing. And
yeah.
then like that, like so having had this whole history with anxiety and panic, but also being a total silly pants goofball, um it so these faces work on both those levels of like
Mhm,
having this like serious element of sort of expressing something about mental illness, and then but they also look absolutely bananas. So they work on these two levels, and there's this push and pull of the serious and the silly, and they just feel right. So
mhm,
it's so interesting that, sort of aesthetically there's something interesting about them to me, but then also conceptually they say exactly what I want to say. So
mhm,
it's so interesting how that works out. There's that like creative magic thing that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how else to explain it,
Creative magic. That's what it is. We have this idea that everything we do has to be good or have value. This belief leads us to burnout. It can hold us back from creating altogether. But in my Ugly Art 101 course, I break down these restricted beliefs and lead you through exercises that intentionally subvert perfectionism and bring playfulness back into your creative process. You can get the first day absolutely free by going to my website, scribeandsunshine.com, and signing up on the homepage. Join me in my weird, ugly art revolution. Back to the show. So, was there anyone or anything going on in particular? I mean, you said 3 to 4 years ago, so I can guess what was happening in the world at that time. But anything that inspired you to be like, no, you know what? I'm at my wit's end. Like, I can't keep doing this. I need to lean into my silliness. I need to lean into my style, rather than trying to paint what other people want to see. Was there someone or something in particular that like pushed you in that direction?
Yeah, well, I had gotten into a car accident at the time, so I was,
Oh, different. I was thinking of like, COVID, and I'm just like,
no,
we're stuck
no,
inside.
this was, like, 2
This
or
was
like,
before that.
pre-COVID, yeah.
Okay, okay. Gotcha.
I think I'm in that, like, headspace where I don't know what years mean right now. I
Yeah.
should, like, draw out a timeline. I'm really bad in general at knowing how many years anything has been. Yeah, um, yeah, COVID, like, minus 2 years, like, 2 years pre.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Don't j if I say anything has been a certain number of years, just don't touch me.
Okay.
Not it's not gonna be accurate. Yeah, okay, you're right. Okay, yeah, I guess it's been 5 years. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm attempting. My first instinct there was to be like, "You haven't done enough in the past 5 years." Yeah, that's a, that internal voice, that internal critic who's just always a big jerk. We're just gonna ignore that voice. Or
Yeah,
just
I
be
was
like,
gonna say I'm happy to refute that voice for
yeah,
you and point out all of the amazing
I
things that
mean,
I've seen from you just in like the year and a half that I've followed you. So
but, that voice is there. You just
yeah.
gotta be like, "Hello, hello, internal jerk."
Oh,
Like,
hi there. Yeah.
"Hello." A voice that says you're never enough.
Yeah.
Nice thanks for coming out. Okay, you can go away now. Anyway, yeah, so I had been in, like, a car accident, and I was, like, stuck on the couch with, like, whiplash for a really long time, and so I
Mm,
think there was just, like, a bit of, like, self-reflection and some, like, reevaluating and, just sort of, like, being in, like, some pain and some, like,
mhm.
just, like, hanging out with your own thoughts there, and, yeah, so I think that's sort of, like, what immediately preceded, making some changes, and, so it had kinda messed up my shoulders, and I couldn't, like, paint for a while, and
Mm,
yeah, so I think it kind of, like, anything that makes you, like, take some time away, I think can lead to those big reflections and some
yeah,
changes. So yeah,
absolutely.
that kind of like led to that big change. And I think it's also easier, if I'm being like really, really honest, it's easier to make those big changes because you sort of like have that like built-in excuse. Because then
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh, like, I made this big change," and it's like, it's the car accident's fault. It's not like me, it's like, "Look over there. That's why I made the change." It wasn't it wasn't like me desperately, like, needing to, like, share something true and real within me, it's over there, that's why
It's
I did
that.
it.
Well, I mean, we had that globally with the pandemic. We're like, "No,
Right.
I didn't always have this. It's this pandemic. It's making me change.
Yeah,
It's
it's
making me
not.
address these, like, really deep inner problems that I've been ignoring so desperately for so long."
Yeah, exactly, this isn't something real and true and honest
Right.
within me, it's a pandemic. Yeah, yeah, I think that's so right. Yeah,
Mhm.
totally. There's something there. It's that, like, "Look over there." Yeah.
Do you watch RuPaul's Drag Race?
Yeah, yeah, "Look over
Okay.
there."
Look
Yeah.
over there. It's just
Yeah,
Had to be on the same page there.
yeah, yeah, good, good, good. Yeah.
So what has been the process of trusting in your style? Like when you first started releasing and sharing
Mm.
those images, like was there a lot of fear when you were first starting to share those?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I think it's like, because the place that we usually, like, start sharing is social media, and
Mhm.
it is always, like, a bit weird to be like, okay, for like, X number of years, I've shared this thing, and now I'm just gonna switcheroo and share this totally different thing. Like you've all known me and followed me for like this thing that you like, and now I'm gonna give you something. It's like,
That you didn't ask for.
yeah, exactly. You ordered a steak off the menu, and now I'm gonna give you chicken fingers. So sorry. Hope you like it.
Who doesn't love
Um,
chicken fingers?
Yeah, who wouldn't want chicken finger? Who, when they order a delightful steak, wouldn't be happy with a plate of chicken fingers? Um, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I think, for one, I think what I learned is that, like, people don't think about you that much and don't care about you that much. So it's okay. You put it out there.
Mhm.
They're not gonna run screaming for the hills. They'll just quietly unfollow you if they don't like it. That's fine.
Mhm.
It's it's not that big of a deal. So I mean, like, it was scary, and I think I built it up in my head a lot more than I needed to. Um,
Mhm.
because like the people who liked it, and the people who didn't left, and people who were like just my friends were like, "Oh, cool," you know,
Yeah.
interesting, weird, okay. And I think, everyone else just, like, got used to it, and, like, most people are just like, "Oh, yeah, this is, like, the art you make," most people are just or, like, really what happened, like, honestly, like, the algorithm is just so slow at actually showing people anything, is that, like,
Mhm.
most people don't even see it until you've been making it for, like, 6 months or a year, and so by then
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, that's what she makes?" And then they look back
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, she's been making this forever. Oh, I've gotta get on board.
Right. I
Oh,
did
I'm behind the times."
I was very curious, like, when this started, so I scrolled back and back and back on your Instagram, and I found your early portraits. I was like, "Oh, holy shit." Like, it's so different.
I know, sometimes I'm like, "Should I archive it? Like, should I get rid of it?" But I'm like, "I kinda like that it's like this."
I love seeing the evolution. And,
Yeah.
like, I really loved your pieces that were, like, the scribbles and then saying, like, "This piece of art has decided that it is not art, and it's too much pressure, and it doesn't wanna be art anymore." Like,
Yeah,
I
I
love those.
I actually wanna, like, revisit those ones a little bit. I kinda wanna make, like, bigger versions of those ones because I feel like that's a good, like, expression of I feel like I don't know. Yeah, I think I've got more to say on those pieces.
Those really spoke to me. I love them, especially, like, the ones that are like, "Whoever buys this art is a beautiful person." You're just
Yeah,
manipulating your
well,
viewers.
I feel like that's, like, capitalism in a
That's
nutshell.
what Yes, exactly. "I
Yeah,
bought this thing, I spent money on it, therefore I am X."
yeah, exactly, right? So that's why we buy paintings is because, like, we want it to say something about us, or that's, like, part of the reason of, like, why capitalism might say you bought a painting.
Right.
Because you're beautiful and intelligent, and yeah, you want it to, like, augment your personality. Anyway, that's like the cynic in me. So yeah, I made this painting to say, like, "The person who bought this painting is attractive and pretty and smarter than you." So
I loved what you said about, like, people don't think about you that much as you think that they will. Like, how much we build it up in our heads. I mean, I
yeah,
remember the first time it was just like a blog post for my business that I was gonna post, and I had it in my head that, like, either people were going to absolutely hate it or they were going to love it and they were going to wanna work with me immediately and it was gonna, like, change everything. This one blog post.
yeah,
And, like,
mhm,
thinking back on it now,
mhm.
I'm just like, "No, honey." Like, sweet
Yeah,
baby. No, like,
yeah,
no one's gonna care. Like, 3
yeah,
people are gonna read it, 2 of them are your parents.
yeah,
Just, like,
yes.
get it out there.
Oh, I mean, your parents read it. That's I mean, bravo.
That might be generous. It's probably just my
Yeah,
mom.
right, and she just skimmed it, let's be honest. But I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, like, truly, like, like, getting people to, like, really actually care, like, it's like, they do a bit, like, honest I mean, they do care, but it's not as much as we think, as we build up in our head
Right.
that they do, like, so when you're making these big changes, or if you, like, experiment with something that feels like, because creative fear is real, and it's big,
Mhm.
and it's daunting, and it's very real, and it's a lot, but then you actually put it out there, and it's just like, it's fart in the wind. It's not
Yeah.
it's
'Cause even if people, like, really love it, I mean, obviously they might buy it, but, like, even if they just love it, they'll like it, they might comment on it, but they won't think about it the way that you think about it. It'll just, yeah, like you said, fart in the wind. There it goes. Like,
yeah. Yeah, yeah, and you're right, like, someone might, like, really engage at it, and, like, look at it, and, like, really, like, have a moment with it, and it might stick with them, like, you never know, like, that's totally a possibility, but, like, the vast majority of the time, like,
right. We're just scrolling. We're
we're
just
just scrolling. Yeah, it's, usually what happens. Yeah.
yeah. Tell me more about your process with horror scoops. How has it been to start integrating more writing into your creative practice?
Yeah, so horoscopes was such a funny thing that I stumbled upon. I never expected to become, a an astrologer, but apparently I am now, and it's, like, the greatest thing ever. I am loving every second of it, because I get to, play around with writing. It's so funny because it's actually just like, okay, did you ever have, like a sort of like a microblog that you wrote in, like, in your teens, or,
Yes,
what were they
I did.
called? Like, some people
Uh,
have Nextopia, or, like,
I
what was
don't
the
know.
one
I was on
everyone had?
Tumblr.
Tumblr, yeah, yeah, a lot of people had Tumblr. For some reason, everyone at my high school had Diaryland.
Oh, never
Um,
heard of that one.
yeah, I know, it wasn't a big one. Everyone had anyway, so I had a Diaryland diary where I would write these little bits. So everyone else wrote, like, like, what the teachers did that was mean, or what the other kids were up to, or, like, their emotions, and cute boys or cute girls or whatever. But I would write these things of absolute, like, nonsensical microfiction about, like, characters with, like, pants made of lemonade, and goldfish with psychic powers that, like, melted into birthday cakes. Like, I don't know, like, whatever. The just, stream of consciousness nonsense. And, so all my friends would just be like, okay. Just like, all right. And, so, and that was just that, and I would, occasionally turn in something like that for, like, an English class project, or something. But, I've always, like, had these bits of writing that were like that I did, and I always really loved doing it, and it was just, like, something, you know in my back pocket, like, time
Yeah.
to time I would, like, take it out and play around and write some absurdist poetry or something. But, yeah, now, getting to, like, write these horoscopes every week is so much fun. Yeah, it's an absurd volume of work, but
It's a lot.
yeah, it
Every
really
week, it's just like it's so much, and I love them every time. I look for my clapper crumb, and I'm just like, right on the nose. I love it. I think one
Clappercrumb.
time you actually said something about the dentist, and I had just come home from the dentist, and I was just
Oh
like,
my gosh. I
Heather's an
knew
oracle. Heather
yeah.
Heather knows exactly. Well-renowned astrologer.
Yeah. No, I had come to Seattle and was following you. Yeah. If only. If only I had those powers.
Did you find that, like, so for me, sharing drawings and scribbles on social media doesn't bother me at all. I'm just like, yeah, here's my scribbleness, here's my nonsense. But when it comes to writing, there's like another level of vulnerability there that I'm just like, "Mm, maybe later." Like, I just it's taken me a lot more work to start to share my writing just in like my writers group. And so I'm just curious if you experienced something similar, or like since you had already been doing it, you know, like you said when you were younger, it just like kind of flowed a
Yeah.
little easier for you.
Well, okay, I think as, like, the horoscopes themselves, I have no, like, fear sharing those. I love them. I think they're just fun and silly and, like, wonderful, and it's, like, my absolute pleasure to, like, toss them out into the world and, people really enjoy them, and therefore, it's just, like, the greatest, like, thing to, like, gift them to people. I mean, it's, like, a ton of work, and I'm just, like, giving them out for free, and it's just really a labor of love to make these just, for the people, for a laugh, for fun. So it's just, like it's truly just a joy. Um, but as for, like, but it's caused me to think about doing a lot more writing, and actually even before this, I'd been doing some more, fiction writing as well. And sharing that, fills me with this sort of perilous dread that is, um, you know, I'd rather sort of, like, stick a fork in my own spleen and rip it out and eat it than, um, share it with another human being. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
something
I
like
relate to
that
that.
sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, words are just so vulnerable. I mean, all sharing all creativity, especially if it like means something to you, is vulnerable. But there
Yeah,
is like when it comes to just like trying to convey human experience in fiction and memoir and whatever, yeah, it's like another level of vulnerability that just feels so yucky.
yeah, and I'm trying to get to a point where I can be like, "Hello, I am an artist and a writer."
Uh-huh.
Right, right, right,
Writer.
writer? Yeah, that second
Writer.
word. It's not coming out fluidly yet. Maybe writer. It'll happen maybe
It'll come.
eventually.
It'll come.
Yeah, working on things. But yeah, it's like wonderful that at least these like absurdist, 12 ridiculous bits of microfiction are getting out into the world every week.
Mhm.
I mean, micro reality, they're not fiction. They're very
Not
real
fiction.
for their destiny. They're real. They come to my brain directly from outer space, from the stars, and
Mhm.
they're real. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
Yep.
Hey writer, are you feeling adrift in your writing practice? Like the words swept you out to sea, but you have no idea where you're going?
Climb aboard the writer's helm. I'm Lauren,
And I'm Gabby.
and we're both writers and professional editors who are here to support you on your writing voyage.
With the Writer's Helm, you get access to group co-writing sessions, Q&A sessions, our private community chat room, and group coaching calls to help you along no matter what stage of the writing process you're in.
Members of our crew have said that they've reconnected with their excitement for writing and feel energized from the support they've received from us and each other.
You can sign up for the Writer's Helm at any time, which comes with a 1-week free trial to make sure that we're the right crew for you.
You don't need to navigate these stormy seas alone. Let the writer's helm take you to new shores. You mentioned that like the process of coming up with that much content every week has been like a lot about just like letting go of
Mm.
expectations and opening yourself up. Can you talk more about that? Explain what your process is?
Well, now, see, at the beginning, you gave me the idea of Mad Libs. I'm gonna go down that well. I'm gonna go fill in some adverbs and some adjectives and nouns.
Yeah.
So no one else is allowed to look at Mad Libs because
Heather is taking all the Mad
for
Libs and
no
using them.
um, okay, no, but for real, yeah, so I've definitely been in that place, where you're trying to sort of like tense up and like squeeze out an idea like really hard and like
Mhm.
force creativity by sort of like pushing it out, and that doesn't work. It definitely
Creative constipation.
yeah,
Doesn't
I was
pushing
trying
doesn't
to
work.
like I was trying to like avoid saying that. I was
I
like, you
mean,
said it for me.
it's all I could it's all I could picture.
Yeah, you can see my face making the creative constipation face. So yeah, creative constipation. Yeah, yeah. Um, and yeah, that just really doesn't work. The like the
Mhm.
tensing and the forcing. It definitely
So you brought in some laxatives.
yeah, yeah, a lot of fiber. You have to have a high um and mentally fibrous diet.
Mhm.
That metaphor works, maybe.
Sure.
Um, yeah, we'll just pretend it does. Um, a lot of mental metamucil, mental mucil.
Mental mucil.
I'm trying to think of what mental mucil would be or look like. Um, anyway, sorry, this is getting silly now. We've both gotten very loose. Um, oh
Like
no,
we hope
sorry.
our creative poops will be.
In the subject of mental mucil, that's okay. Anyway,
I expected nothing less from this conversation. I didn't think I'd be able to get through a conversation with you without it devolving into something silly.
into something as silly as mental laxatives. Okay. Um, anyway, so we were talking about my process for horoscopes.
Yes.
So you just take 2 scoops of Mexlac, and you stir that in to a cup of warm water, and anyway, no,
Make sure there are no clumps in
yeah, no
this.
clumps. You don't want a clumpy. Yeah, you don't want a clumping. You do not want a clumping. Okay, okay. I think we've composed ourselves, come back down to reality, and are ready to talk about process
Great.
again. Yeah, okay, because yeah, like making horoscopes is like it's an intense like volume of work. It's like,
Mhm.
if I come up with like 2 a day, that's good. Or if I'm procrastinating and I have to write, 12 pieces of microfiction on a Sunday, that's happened
Yeah.
before, that's a lot. I do have like a notes app in my phone that's like full of potential scoops, um,
Mhm.
as well as like, bits and pieces written here and there. And, whenever something comes to me, like I write it down. So I am collecting them along the way. And, certain friends know that like, when something silly is said, sometimes I'll just like go and like write it
Hold
down and be
on.
like, sorry, like
I
this
gotta write this down.
this is gonna be material. Sorry about it. Just because it's just so much that I've gotta like take from everywhere
Yeah.
I can. It's too much to like let anything sort of slide. Um, but for the most part, the vast majority of them really what I do is, and actually I learned that this is really similar to how actual astrologers work.
Oh,
I learned this. I did an interview with a woman from the CBC, and
yeah.
she told me that this is like what actual astrologers do. So basically, what I do is
Huh.
I like meditate. I'll take some deep breaths. I'll relax, and I have a little like routine, and I'll like clear my mind, and I'll like just like wait for some like images and whatnot to like come into my mind, and wait, kind of like let them congeal, let like sort of a story unfold, and see what comes up. And apparently that's very similar to what like actual astrologers do. They'll like get into a
You're
meditative
actually
state.
channeling from the stars.
I mean, I guess maybe I am a real astrologer. Oh my god. But I think that's really interesting. I think it's just like the only difference is, sort of like the approach, the intention, the
Right.
sort of the like impetus behind it.
Mhm.
Sort of like I imagine an actual astrologer would be like, all right, Sagittarius, go brain, or they'll have some like ideas based on I don't know. I actually don't know anything about astrology, so I don't know what I don't want to sully my mind with actual
Yeah,
astrology knowledge. So I do
it's
have
better.
like some astrology books that I've picked up along the way from like used bookstores just because I think they're interesting, and a few other reasons. There's like some peripheral astrology research I want to do, but not about the actual signs themselves.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so I don't know. I imagine that like astrologers, they do some research about what the stars are doing, and then for the like nitty gritty of the sign, they like let you know get meditative, let like the ideas flow to them. Anyway,
Right.
so it's like very similar to that for like the vast majority of them. I like just like get quiet, let some ideas come, and try, if I like panic and try to force it, it's gonna go wrong. It's
Mm.
not gonna be good. But if I'm like calm and I just like trust that something will come, it's a lot about that trust, and it's a lot about being calm, being loosey goosey, and
Yeah.
and and trusting, which is scary. Scary to, sometimes when it's like, I post them on Monday and sometimes it's the weekend and I'm like, oh crap. Oh no.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Like being loose and trying to be like chill then is not always easy.
Yeah. That trust is definitely hard to come by. So,
Mhm.
good for you for coming up with that routine and just channeling your creativity and like learning to trust. I mean, obviously, I'm sure it's not like always easy, but
Oh, yeah, no, and sometimes I'm like not able to, and that's when I go to the well of the notes app and like
yeah.
the other ones. Like I try not to use those unless like that's kind of the like emergency parachute, like that's the
Right.
backup one. That's the one you use like when the other one doesn't open. Um,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
usually, usually the trusting works. Usually
Yeah.
the calm flow, meditative relaxation, usually they come.
Yeah.
Some days that doesn't happen. And that's when
And
you have
that's
backup
okay.
plans.
And
That's when
that's
you
when
do
you have a backup.
exactly.
Oh, so good. What would you tell creatives who think that their work is too out there to appeal to people?
Oh, that's such a good question. Because I think we're actually in like the absolute best time for people who make work that is out there and weird
Mhm.
and niche. Like I think if you are making work that is really, really weird or out there or strange. Like I think now is like I think we're really lucky right now.
Mhm.
Because I think even like, you know, even 20 years ago, I think there was a lot of pressure to sort of appeal to everyone um,
Yeah.
with your work. But I think right now, like, you don't need to appeal to everyone. You don't need everyone to be your fan.
Mhm.
Um, like all you really need is a very small group of people who dig your work and who occasionally buy it, and you can make a living from it. You know, it doesn't take you don't need like 2 bazillion followers to make a living from your work anymore, you know,
Mhm.
or really it's not even about that. Maybe all you want is to just like put it out there for fun. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's also just fine. You know, I think we live in an amazing time for work that is out there. There are so many like weirdos waiting to accept you, and who aren't just waiting to accept you, but are waiting to feel accepted by you, you know, and
Yeah.
feel the acceptance that they're going to feel by seeing your work. You know, your work is going to make them feel accepted, and they're going to make them feel seen because
Mhm.
because of what you're saying, you know, like your work um it might be so out there and so weird and so ridiculous and so silly that, you know, someone is going to be like, oh wow, I thought it was just me that felt this, but oh my gosh, it's this oddball too, it's this
Mhm.
absolute weirdo as well. And I think that's definitely something I found in horoscopes. You know, a lot of the people who are the biggest fans of it are people who are like, oh, this is like the way I think. This is like
Mhm.
this is like me. This is like me and my friends. And
Mhm.
it's the people who send their horoscopes to, you know, all their friends every Monday. And that's the people who, you know, think the same way and who are big weirdos too and who are big goofballs and you know, just are probably very similar to me, and we'd probably be pals and hang out if we ever met, you know, because
Yeah.
they're the same way and are probably like, you know, big loser nerds in high school. And, you know, we're probably very similar types of people, and that's the power of art, is that it like connects us and makes us feel seen and makes, you know, it like it builds a little bridge between something I felt and something you felt.
Mm.
And when you put it out there, you know, you're putting this little bridge, this little invitation out there. And so I think it's such a great time to to be making work that's out there. So yeah, go
Yeah.
for it. Make it
Absolutely.
weirder. Make it even weirder.
Yeah, I think also, like, people are so tired of, like, the curated, perfect, imagery of, like, what things are supposed to be. Because like,
Yes.
how many people actually fit into those categories? 0. Nobody fits into those
Mhm.
categories, even the people who are saying that they fit into those categories. Like, we are all weird little animals, and, the more you can, like, show your weird little animal self to other people, like, the more you'll connect on that. Like, "Oh, thank God. I thought I was, like, in this human suit and I had to act a certain way, but, like, you're showing me that I don't have to act like this." And, like, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah, yeah, it's like such a relief the
Mhm.
second someone like gives you permission. Sorry, I just burped into the microphone. Um, hopefully that didn't get caught. Um, but yeah, like yeah, you're just like giving them permission and like a beautiful like invitation to be weird and to be, yeah, not the normal thing that has probably like been killing them and been like painful to be and to like
Mm-hmm.
been like a horrible pressure in their lives to be like any sort of wonderful invitation to like jump ship out of that like painful existence. Oh my
Yeah.
god, it's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
good.
Ah, I want to see this
Well,
imaginary art we're talking about from these out there people. Oh my god, sounds
yeah,
great.
all the way. I've since delving into like just ugly art and like searching for ugly art out in the world, I have found some incredible things.
Oh,
Like Hani is an artist in Australia who made this gigantic Kim Kardashian sculpture, like humongous, and
oh my
like
god.
it's her giant ass.
Ah,
And then there's like a place where you can put your head like between her cheeks, and like
oh,
it
oh
shows you a
my god.
video of like all this like social media stuff. It's like a huge commentary, but like it's like the funniest thing, and I love it so
I
much.
want I want I want in. I want in with that.
I'll send it to you.
Oh my
It's great.
god.
Honey's great.
That sounds so good.
Okay, so we're wrapping up. At the end of every episode, I like to ask if there's anything ugly that you've made this week or recently. Um, Obviously, it doesn't have to specifically be ugly. It could just be something that you let go of the outcome while making it. Sounds like you do that frequently with horoscopes. So maybe something outside of that. Yeah, anything ugly you've made.
Yeah, yeah, I made, a painting recently, like one of my, portraits with text on it. I actually, like, found one that I had made and I really liked the text on it, but the portrait just oh gosh, it just didn't work out. It just looked really, really, really bad. The face looked just I don't know, she looked too, like, cutesy and, like, I wanted her to look cool, you know, like, I wanted her to look, I don't know, a certain way, and she just didn't,
Uh huh.
but, you know, like and I used to, like, think I just had to paint everything, like, one time, like, I had, like, one shot
Mm.
to, like, make a painting, but
Yeah.
then I just redid it. I just did it over again, like, I don't know why I thought, like, every painting had, like, one energy to it, like, I just had to,
Uh huh.
like, I had, like, one go at it, like, it only had, like, this one life force, and I just had to, like, do it, and, like, that was it. But
Mhm.
I realized that like this weird misconception I had. Yeah, I was just wrong. I could just redo it. I could just make a
Yeah.
different version of that painting.
Oh yeah. Exactly. I think so many writers too think that. I mean,
Ah,
painters and other kinds of artists, but like writers think like, especially first time writers, I have to write a book. Like, and writing a book is the thing. And they don't really think about the fact that like you're gonna write so many drafts of the same book. And it's just like it's not just one shot. You get to like redo it and edit it and revise it, and it's like this whole long process. Like you get to redo it as many times as you think it's ready and necessary. Like,
right.
yeah.
Like you can just if you've made something bad, you can just take the part that's good. Like the text I wrote was good.
Mhm.
There was one salvageable thing in this painting. And then just throw out the ugly part
Uh-huh.
and then just make a new one. And the new one was fine. It was a good painting. It was a it went from a C minus to an A minus. It wasn't great. It wasn't breaking any records, any new ground, but it was fine. It was good. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
Um
thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. I laughed very hard. I'm
Yes.
gonna go have some Metamucil now.
Just really craving it after that
Yeah, I
conversation.
don't know why.
Is there anything you want to announce? Anything coming up or anywhere people should go to support you? Anything
They
to
can
share?
people can follow me on Instagram at Heather Buchanan, HeatherBuchanan, or at horoscopes, horror.scoops. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, I'm someday gonna have the confidence to have a short story somewhere. That may
Woohoo.
not be true. Who knows? It could happen.
We will see.
Or I'll eat my own spleen. One of the two things. One of those two things.
Well, let's hope for the former. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Keep it ugly, everybody. The Ugly Podcast is created by me, Lauren Alexander of Scribe and Sunshine. It is produced and sort of edited, also by me, and written and directed by absolutely nobody. If you like the podcast, be sure to rate and leave a review on your preferred platform and share with the creative people in your life. If you're interested in learning more about what I do, head to scribeandsunshine.com to learn more about my Ugly Art 101 course, my perfectionism workshop, my editing services, and the Writer's Helm, which is an online community for writers co-captained by myself and Gabby Goodlow. As always, keep it ugly.